The decision to build a van wasn't made easily, because I've spoken about this before. I've spoken about the buzz, the fizz, that thing the lovers of four-wheel drives get when they're camped up under some trees with their mates and they walk away from their vehicle and they, oh, she's beautiful. And then you think in your head, what are you going to do next year? What are you going to do on the next trip? Where are you going to go? Even you might be on a trip, you're still thinking about where you're going to go next year with it. And then you sit around the campfire with your mates and you then discuss more about what you're going to do with your vehicle and where to go next. But how would I feel driving it on, say, the Canning stock route? Would it give me that feeling that, let's face it, why I love Land Cruisers? Actually, why I love Range Rovers, why I love Suzuki Jimneys, why I love most capable four-wheel drives, why I hate the new Defender, because it used to be one of those things that I loved and it's no longer, and so I keep having a go at it. And I had to think to myself, well, could I enjoy it as much as my Land Cruiser? And I was camping recently, actually about 6 months ago, and this is what I came up with. It's 2024. That means 40 years that I've been exploring the world's most remote places in four-wheel drives, in association with the Overland Workshop. When I was in the States and I test drove the Sportsmobile, I loved it. Interesting thing about this vehicle that I'm driving, the Sportsmobile, it's gathered a clan of customers, is too a drier word, a fellowship of drivers. I mean, all of these vehicles you can see here, they're all Sportsmobiles. I quickly got used to the way it drove. Pulling up to camp and actually having all that space, all that comfort and everything was fantastic. The Sportsmobile had a solid axle. It could be driven in front-wheel drive, or rear-wheel drive, or four-wheel drive. It had locking front and rear differential locks. It was a real four-wheel drive. But for Australia, the distances, long distances, would I like something with a little bit more comfort? Yes, sure. Will the Hiace give that to me? Maybe. Okay. Very possibly. Not necessarily. Will it be better off-road? No. It's not going to be better off-road. But the question is it good enough off-road? This is a hardcore four-wheel drive off-road machine, our troop carriers. You can take them through extreme terrain, and they do very well. The Hiace is not going to be as good, but will it be as good? Will it, for example, be able to take me onto a beach? Well, if it can't, then the answer is, yeah, nice try, but no. But I don't think that's the case. Will it be able to take me on a really tough climb up a mountain, because we're going up there with my mates, and so-and-so's got a Mitsubishi, and so-and-so's got a Hilux, and my son-in-law's got an Isuzu D-Max, and if it can't keep up with them, then no, then I'm not interested. But I am imagining myself in a year's time where I have my troop carrier and I have van sitting here now in my favorite little spot at my country airfield. Which one would I prefer to, because remember, I like real four-wheel drive camping enthusiasts who love their vehicles. They have one thing in common. They walk away from their cars, their campsite, and they turn around and they go, it's pretty nice. And I start thinking about other things they can do. Would I prefer to do that with a van or a troop carrier? My gut says troop carrier because it looks right. But my emotional attachment to the troop carrier is not such that I wouldn't say, if I can get the van looking right. It cannot look like a delivery van. It just can't. But it won't. Once you put a really nice bull bar on it, side rails perhaps, maybe a rear wheel carrier, all of the bits and pieces that makes it, turns it into a functioning four-wheel drive. It's not going to look like, it's not going to look like a delivery van. What is a Troopy? Apart from the fact that it's a good four-wheel drive vehicle, it's a van, and because it's a van, it is wonderful as a camping instrument, very quick to set up, and etc., etc., on a very good four-wheel drive chassis. The Hiace is a van, even bigger, even better access, even more versatile in terms of a camper, far more versatile than this. If it ticks the four-wheel drive boxes, it is the new troop carrier, as far as I'm concerned. And those are not just that it can, you know, do a bit of four-wheel driving if the road gets sticky. No. That's not, no. It's, I want to go there with my mates and I can keep up with you. And sure, the guys in the 80 series, again, I get a little bit further, and I proved something, and I'll tell you why I think, right now, why I think this is doable. In about 2012, I did a trip through the Richtersveld. It's an area of South Africa that is, it's only desert mountains, exquisitely beautiful desert mountains, far north west of South Africa. And I was loaned a stock Fortuner. My guide was driving an 80 series with 35-inch wheels. I was driving a stock, as I said, Fortuner. He kept on coming up next to me and saying, I cannot believe you are still behind me. Greg just said to me on the radio, he's already at the top, that if the Fortuner can do this, then the Fortuner's got to be good, because it's hectic.
I was graded about grade 4.
Gee, it looks difficult. I might need some hand signals on that one piece there.
How's the car going?
Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Okay, you want, hey?
I didn't see any wheel spin on anything there.
It just walked up the hill.
What did you think?
It just walked up the hill.
Just walked up the hill.
Once it twitched sideways.
And that loose stone is wild.
And it just gripped again.
Oh.
This motor is unbelievable. For a turbo diesel, there's no turbo diesel I've ever driven like this. I was sitting at 1,100 RPM, and when I needed power, it gave it to me instantly.
I could just hear you idling up the hill.
I
couldn't see you. I walked to the edge, but I
idled
could
up the
just
hill.
hear you chugging.
It's good,
Well
eh?
done.
It's good, eh? The only thing that's going to stop this thing is clearance. He said it 4 or 5 times. Eventually, I started hitting the bottom of the car, and it was a loan vehicle from Toyota South Africa, and I kind of said, okay, I've put a little dent in the side step, and remember, stock car, and I then said, look, I could go a bit further, but I'm putting somebody else's vehicle at risk, and I wasn't prepared to do that. The bottom line is that I kept up with an 80 series Land Cruiser, driven by a competent driver. The van has got to be, I think it will be, and I think the only its breakover angle is not particularly great, and its departure angle is questionable, but not terrible, I don't believe, but we're yet to see. With a four-wheel drive system, it's a properly good four-wheel drive system. They're not playing around. It's a Land Cruiser 200 transfer gearbox. and the subframe and everything is, this is built.
Question you've got to ask yourself is, do you want to drive a van? But is it just a van? It's not as if this is an Amazon delivery truck with a whole lot of packages at the back that you're driving around. You're going to be driving dreams on wheels. You know, that expands your horizon, and takes you into the wild and does all these things you want for you. So your brain has got to make that jump.
You are right. This is a delivery van.
What
What we're looking at now is a delivery van. It's actually quite a jump.
It's a huge mental jump. I was looking at the steering wheel and thinking, I can see, you know, all the bits and pieces that you spoke about this area for a fridge. I can just see what you're going to build here in my mind's eye. I can see this whole cabin converted into a cabin for overlanding. You know, this cabin is for someone who just drives around all day with his GPS up here or whatever and delivers boxes around town. You can't look at this vehicle like this. You've got to immediately see the dream. And you've done the homework and you've determined that the platform is solid and can do it. Then you've got to look past the van and see the dream.
I think I can.
I've got another question for you.
Yes.
You've always been known as 4x4 Guru, the David Attenborough, all these names. And those names are not just associated with your travels. They're very much associated with the vehicle that you've driven. You know, you launched Troopys. You're known for your love of Range Rovers. Vehicles are very much associated with who you are, with your ID. What do you think your psyche, your id, is going to feel like driving this?
You know where the leap is? And this might sound crazy. You know what the leap is? Changing its color. When I built my very first troop carrier, I looked at the troop carrier and thought to myself, that is the ugliest thing in the world, because it looks like a UNESCO UN van and it's ugly.
I remember you saying it looks like an ambulance.
Exactly. Because you see ambulances all around Africa and they're all white battered troop carriers. It's the color that's the issue. It's almost because, as you say, if the underpinnings work and can do the job, then the mental is, it's got to look right. Mm. How do you make it look right? You make it green. I promise you, with the wrap, I could make this look
fabulous.
Drop dead fabulous. Can I get used to this? It's not a car anymore. It's a real van. It's a bit of a jump, but actually there's nothing wrong with the steering wheels. Better than the troop carrier's steering wheel. Standard one anyway. The biggest problem I have right now is I love my Troopy.
I know you do.
Man, it's good.
So, okay, you love your Troopy and everybody loves your Troopy. Explain, please.
Why?
Why are you going through this process again of changing the vehicle? Because I know so many of our subscribers scratch their heads as to why you constantly turning over vehicles that you claim you love.
What side of the bed did you get up this morning?
I'm playing devil's advocate.
It's not my side of the bed. All right, no, that is a very, very good question. I'm just going to close the door and just feel a bit of the cab feel in here.
Oh, there's a nice solid reverb.
Like the cave in the back. So, okay, it's my business. First and foremost, this is my business.
Turning around cars.
Turning around cars.
Building.
Well, building is an important part of what I do, but it's not the thing that I like the most. I like the end goal is doing trips, but at the same time, I don't deny that I do love building vehicles and particularly experimenting with vehicles. I've never built a proper van before, so it's a big experimental new experience for me. I know that the van life culture, particularly in North America, is just ridiculous in terms of its growth and the enthusiasm, which I think is fantastic. So business-wise, this is a good move.
Yeah.
Pure business-wise, it's a
Even though you can't get this particular vehicle in the US.
Yeah, you can't, but you can't get
It's
Troopies in the
concept.
US. You can't. You know, the differences between vehicles here and vehicles you can get in the US is a constant issue. If I build a vehicle for the US market, I build it in the US, period. Because it's also, you can't get all of the kit that you can get here. You can get more van kit in the US than you can in Australia.
Well, that makes sense.
Yes. So I'm saying, it's getting warm in here. I'm going to open
is.
it up again. So I'm saying, well, I love the experience of experimenting with a new space. I do love that. I think I've got the Troopy as good as I can get it. It's fantastic. And now you're excited about this because you know that for two live-in, we could actually make a meal in here if we had to. Try and make a meal inside our Troopy.
It's a challenge.
It would have to be really bad weather for us to do that.
Yeah.
It would have to be impossible to make a meal outside for us to do that because there's just not enough space in it. This, you could actually turn it into a mini caravan, within reason, obviously, but it's so much easier because you've got so much more space. And that's the trick. How do you make best use of that space? Where does the bed go? Does it come up? Is there a lift top? Pop? What? I don't know. At this moment, I don't know. My Troopy, I get excited about taking on a trip because it works. I have to make this work. Is it as capable off-road? No.
Even with the conversion, the
No.
Hilux conversion.
No.
Because of
You're trading off-road ability for camping comfort.
size.
So, but what is the trade? How much of a trade? If, for example, this conversion didn't have low ratio gearing, I wouldn't bother. I just said, I wouldn't be sitting in it today. The conversion has good clearance. How much is it sufficient? I have no idea, but it looks okay, but I don't know. It has full-time four-wheel drive. I love the idea of full-time four-wheel drive. It's just better. Okay, 6-speed automatic gearbox. Auto gearboxes, actually, in most situations, auto is nicer than manual. Okay, and so there, fatigue-wise, driving-wise, it's easier to drive than a troop carrier. Is it going to give me a buzz? And that's
the $1 million question.
That is the $1 million question. Is it going to give me a buzz?
It's the risk factor.
There's a risk factor. There's a risk factor.
You've never gone wrong with your builds in terms of, okay, you didn't like the Dream Camper.
And I've identified why we didn't enjoy the Dream Tour. It wasn't its weight, it wasn't its handling or anything like that. It was the fact that the camper was just a canopy with a bed on top.
Yeah.
You couldn't get in it and do anything in it apart from sleep. You know what I mean? So it was not as good as even the troop carrier in terms of live in and live out of. We're going to cook something tonight on this fire.
But you've never gone wrong with your builds in the fact that they have been such that no one ever wanted to buy them. Or, you know,
No.
your builds have always been
No, they will all,
successful.
yes, but am I more fussy than most overlanders in that? Maybe a bit. But maybe that's an age thing. I want comfort when I'm camping. I want my camping set up to be easy. That's important. I could do that here quite easily. But remember, the troop carrier is built on decades of people building them. So there are products available, and having now owned 3 of them, I know what works and I know what doesn't work.
Yeah, you're
Here,
a newborn babe.
now inside a van, there is so much information about vans, but not this particular one. And are there products that I can buy off the shelf for this? Not like a troop carrier. There are some things. But what do we do with the interior? That's going to be a challenge. And I'm going to need help. Okay, everybody. Thank you
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
We
tolerate.
do this.
It's like everything on Forex Overland. It's real life. It's nothing contrived on this channel. We do it, and we just turn on cameras, and this is our discussion.
And this verbal diarrhea happens.
And I hope you will continue following us whichever way we go.